Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. There seems to be some sort of issue with YouTube where it actually put on 2 live streams for some reason. I have no idea what happened there. I hope that maybe another one with a delay. I have no idea what's happening. I'll see about sorting that out. So I hope everyone is very well tonight. Let's see who's on the stream. We have Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you. We have Derek, great to have you on, Derek. Ends of the God, great to see you. We have CGM, great to see you. Killer, great to have you on once again, moderating. We have Chatty Rat, great to see you, Chatty. Hope you're fine. We also have Sammy, great to see you. Derek, great to have you on, Derek. We have Giorgio, great to have you on, Giorgio. Hope you're well. James, great to see you. Shibber, Max Shibber, great to have you on. Orman, great to see you. We have Lena, and great to have you on. Hope you're well. Eddie, great to see you. Regan Elite, great to have you on once again. Hope you're well. We have Asperger, great to see you. Let me see. Something happening with my notifications. What's happening with my notifications? Oh no. Double stream. Let me see. Valeria, thank you so much for that super chat. Hi Max, it's too hot here in Rome to work. So sorry to hear that. Thanks so much for that super chat. Okay, I think I've discovered what the problem is. Stream in stereo. Okay. There seems to be some problem with YouTube. I don't know why it's put out 2 streams. It normally just does 1 stream, but we'll try and work through it. Hopefully those on the other stream will come to this one, or maybe from the other stream to this stream to the I don't know. Let's go ahead anyway. Hopefully it will sort itself out. Geraldine, great to see you. Whelan, great to see you. Eddie, Martin, great to have you on. Paul Gallagher, great to see you. Hope you're well. We have Angela on the stream. Great to see you, Angela. Tokerhem, great to see you. Yes, I see. I have also a multi-stream. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay. Is this the correct stream? Eddie, Ed, yes it is. I think. Just move over from the other stream. Okay, apologies about the other stream. I'm not sure why it brought up 2 streams. Apologies for that. So YouTube has been messing me about a little bit over the last number of months. Dave, great to see you. Hi from Narnarlan. Narnarlan. I hope you like the DUP video I uploaded today. Katrina, great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well. Now I think more people are coming on from the other side, from the other dimension. The chat is the same in both streams. Okay, I have no idea why it's doing that. I'll have a look into it after. Phew, just came from the other stream. There's a guy who sounds like you, Max. I think I may know what the problem is. I think I installed a new tool called Multistream, and maybe it got messed up with that for the settings. I think it's trying to send through 2 streams. It's sending out from OBS to YouTube directly, and then it's sending from OBS into Multistream, which is another tool. So I'll stop using that from now on. I don't think I can shut it down from here, but that's okay. We have Owen, great to see you, Owen. We have Lee, great to see you. Harry, Charlton, great to see you. We have Frenatica, great to see you. It's Saran. Oh my god. We don't speak his name. Saran is not allowed on the stream, okay? He got control of the computer from time to time, and I tried to kick him out of the house. He sneaks in. He finds his way back in somehow. Suzanne, great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well. So let's start off. We can jump into the first topic, of course. Brexit. Is this peak Brexit? It says here, this is somebody on Twitter wrote, I just want to talk a little bit about this before moving on to the main topics. From Chris Kimbley, who says, my local Tesco in Milton Keynes has replaced fresh fruit with pictures of fresh fruit. This is insane. So obviously because there's a shortage of trucks, of lorries, to take fruit and vegetables and other things into the UK. So whatever's been picked is being delivered to supermarkets, but the quantities are going down. So in order to avoid empty shelves, somebody put pictures of fruit. Not sure how good they taste. I wouldn't recommend trying them. But are we reaching peak Brexit yet? And then on this Twitter account, they have some more pictures. You can see here frozen food. So it's not just affecting fruit and vegetables. Obviously, it's affecting all types of food, chips and pizza and things like that. And somebody posted, sovereignty, sovereignty, sovereignty. So Brexiteers should be happy. You know, they have less food, but they have more sovereignty. I'm not sure what that is. And there's another picture further down. It says here, we're sorry, but due to Brexit, your lifestyle the lifestyle you ordered is no longer in stock. And finally, they have another picture here. Where is it? I want to show it to you. No, it's not here. Yes, no, here it is. It's somebody wrote, my local Tesco has replaced fresh fruit and vegetables with fresh air. Lots and lots of it. You know, it's happy air. You should be happy. It's happy. Before we go on, I just want to read some more of your chats. Back to narrow boats. Back to the narrow boats. I'm not sure what that's about. High fiber fruit. Yes, paper. There's a lot of fiber in it. You know, keep you regular. What's the shortage? Just asking from Ireland. Oh, very mean. So instead of buying fruit, you get a picture of it. Remember the analogy I made some time ago when I said Brexiteers, when they voted for Brexit, they said, I want a pizza. And, you know, if you came back with a picture of a pizza, they couldn't complain because they didn't specify what type of pizza. So there we go. So maybe, you know, you could buy some paper fruit. Batteries not included. And Brexit just keeps on giving. But once again, it's the people who have lots of money will not be affected by this. Now, this will probably correct itself after a period of time when, you know, there are more truck drivers available, when some of the fruit and vegetables that can't be grown, that can't be imported or are a problem to import will be grown in Britain. But you can sort of say goodbye to things like pineapples and oranges and grapes, maybe. Remember how there's Victory Gin, 1984? Well, in Brexit Britain, there's Sovereignty Fruit. It's made of cardboard. I think that deserves a meme, Boomer Age. Sovereignty Fruit. I think this is the wrong stream. Try the other one. Nope, this is the right stream. Still waiting for my magic unicorn. I bet Waitrose has shelves full of expensive fruit and vegetables. Some people, yeah, some places will. The more upmarket supermarkets who are able to spend more money, who have higher margins, will be able to import more expensive things or will be able to take the hit. But many supermarkets operate on a very thin margin. They make their profits on quantity, and if quantity is affected, the supermarkets are affected as well. Okay, I want to move on. I'll just get rid of that. So I want to show you this story, and there's also a video to go along with it. It says here, Brexit. David Frost says it's not his job to solve EU touring crisis hitting musicians. So if you remember back during the Brexit transition period, Boris Johnson hired David Frost to do the negotiations. No, it wasn't. He didn't hire it during the negotiations. No, he was the Brexit negotiator, the chief negotiator for the UK. And during that period, during the transition period, the negotiations for the UK-EU trade deal were limited to about a year. So they had to be completed within that time frame, because the transition period, which could have been extended, was not being extended. Boris Johnson had the possibility during the middle of a pandemic to extend the transition period, and I had said at the time, back last June or July, that he should have extended the transition period, but he said no. Plenty of rats and pigeons. He didn't do that. So David Frost and his negotiating team had to operate within a very tight deadline. Now, what did they focus on? Did they focus on industries that hire that hire a lot of, how can I say that, not accommodate, but have a huge workforce, that employ huge numbers of people? No, they focused on fishing because it's sexy, because it's something that reaches out into the souls of people and reminds them of something rugged and romantic, instead of actually dealing with businesses and industries that actually, bring in money and employ huge numbers of people. So fishing was front and center, and of course the entertainment industry, music industry were forgotten about, and not just them, many other industries were forgotten about. And now the musicians are saying, okay, well, why didn't you work out an agreement with the European Union for us to be able to tour in a way that we were before, instead of having to fill out mountains of paperwork? So Elton John, for example, today complained about the problem. Now, of course, Elton John is not really affected by this because Elton John has huge amounts of money and he can just spend the money necessary. But this affects small groups, individuals, bands starting out who normally have very little money or no money at all. Elton John has planned for Paris. Jeff Wayne planned for Amsterdam, and the others, all the others who are stuck. Perhaps we could reclassify beef as a fruit. Fishing is sexy. Have you been Peter out? For the public, MJ. Not for me. So it says here, Brexit Minister David Frost has washed his hands of a crisis, forcing musicians to abandon tours of the EU, despite Johnson promising he would fix it. So once Boris Johnson promises something, you can say, okay, it's not going to happen. You can be guaranteed, whether it's free school meals for children, remaining loyal to his partner, no border in Northern Ireland, everything Boris, the good rule of thumb is when Boris Johnson says something, then he's going to do the opposite. That's it. Whatever Boris Johnson says, he's going to do the opposite. We're going to leave on the 31st of October. No, we're not leaving on the 31st of October. There won't be a border in the Irish Sea. There will be a border in the Irish Sea. You can apply it to almost anything. We're not going to go into a lockdown. We're going to go into a lockdown. Anything. You can apply it to pretty much anything. Look at how he acts in the House of Commons. Stands up and just lies. And I saw a clip today of Ian Blackford, the leader of the SNP in the House of Commons, who was close to calling Boris Johnson a liar. Lydia, great to see you on the stream. But was very close to, and Kendo, great to see you. He was very close to calling Boris Johnson a liar, and the Speaker of the House said, no, you can't call Boris Johnson a liar. Wouldn't it be hilarious if he said, you can't call the lying Prime Minister a liar? That would have been cool. Anyway. In a stormy session with MPs, the chief negotiator insisted that it was not his job to try and find a solution. Then what was his job during the negotiations, which was the role of the culture and transport departments? he said. So, of course, this is passing the buck. It wasn't my job. It was someone else's job. It's like, when you go to look for, I don't know what it is, how it's like where you are, but sometimes when you go to look for a document, I need this document to do this activity. You go to a public office, they say, no, you have to go to this other office. And you go there and they, no, you have to go to this other office. That's pretty much what's happening here. It's not my responsibility. That's the responsibility of the culture and transport departments, which isn't really true because he was negotiating with the European Union, not them. Lord Frost refused to say that the crisis could be solved this year, as the UK refused to reopen talks with Brussels, saying only, we hope to be able to deliver some results, which means that they will do nothing. The Tories will not do anything unless they're really, really pushed. We saw it with the Marcus Rashford and the free school meals. They did nothing until Marcus Rashford got involved and put pressure on them. Marcus Rashford is more powerful, it seems, than Parliament, because Parliament were trying to put pressure on the government to provide free school meals, and they didn't give a flying F. When Marcus Rashford got involved, Marcus Rashford needs to be cloned, and he needs to be cloned for every issue regarding Brexit. So there needs to be a copy of Marcus Rashford for, I don't know, for the music industry. There needs to be a fishing Marcus Rashford. There needs to be an export Marcus Rashford. Really, that seems to be what's necessary. Just clone, print him out, copy and paste, and just have like 500 Marcus Rashfords going around raising issues that are important, that are affecting businesses and people and individuals post-Brexit. And they'll get sorted, it seems. I thought the EU hated musicians. Really? I don't think the EU hates musicians. There is no point in calling Boris a liar when calling Trump a liar. Then calling Trump a liar. They are what they are. If Bojo said the sun was going to set in the east, I would still be doubtful. Me too. At the moment, today is Tuesday, but if Boris Johnson said it's Tuesday, I'd have to check the calendar. So, and he downplayed the anger, some results. Okay. And he downplayed the anger of top musicians such as Elton John, who has accused ministers of lying because the star had his first hit before the UK even became a member of the European Union. So, like, this is the sort of response from Brexiteers, and this was quite shocking. You're going to hear it in a moment, but it's quite shocking from, a government minister saying, well, before we were a member of the European Union, people didn't complain about what they had to do. Yes, but before 1973, when bands went touring, they were normally famous bands. They had lots of money, and they had organizations in different parts of Europe who would make sure that all the paperwork and everything was carried out for them. The record labels were doing the heavy lifting. Many bands have moved away from operating with record labels because of the costs involved, because the record labels take, I don't know how much, maybe 90% of the revenue. Many small bands have decided, and this is talking about before Brexit, small bands, you can start your own band, have a YouTube channel, become famous in a short period of time, but you don't have the infrastructure there behind you to operate abroad. So it's a stupid argument to say, yes, well, people used to travel and operate abroad before 1973. Yes, but that's the world has completely changed since then. Wouldn't you think Lord Frost would understand that? Well, he probably does. He's just lying to the public, pretending that he doesn't. Lord Frost was accused of sacrificing touring artists, now facing huge fees and red tape for visas, work permits, and to transport equipment, to Brexit anti-free movement zealotry. I feel sorry for Michel Barnier, said an exacerbated Julian Knight, the Conservative chair of the Commons Culture Committee, referring to the EU negotiator. Why? In late March, the Prime Minister told MPs I don't understand. I feel sorry for Michel Barnier. Okay. Told the Prime Minister MPs would fix the crisis, saying Lord Frost, is in overall charge of everything, of making this happen. Of course he was. Well, he's the Brexit minister now. But 3 months later, the minister said, it is the responsibility of the Department for Digital, Culture, Music and Sport to take it forward with our embassies. Passing the buck here. The stance amounts to a rejection of the plea by the industry groups for a cross-EU visa waiver agreement, which the EU proposed last year, but the Independent revealed the UK rejected. So the EU said, look, we'll give you this. And I don't think there was actually anything in return that the EU wanted. They said, okay, yeah, we'll give this. But the UK said no. Now, I think it applied just to musicians. It didn't apply to extended teams and crews, which, in a sense, didn't really help the musicians. It helped the musicians themselves, but musicians don't travel alone. They travel with a crew with them. Now, I may be mistaken here, but I think it just involved the musicians themselves, not the crews, which meant that if the crews needed the paperwork and visas and everything, that was still going to be a problem. But the UK rejected anyway, which doesn't make much sense. Instead, Lord Frost insisted the only route open was bilateral negotiations with 27 national capitals, although they will not allow cross-border touring of the EU to be fully restored. See, the problem here is that you can't just expect it to be a nation-by-nation negotiation, because it's going to take ages. Are you going to compensate the industry during that period of time? Probably not. Certainly not. It's just it's just a way of dismissing the concern, dismissing the argument, dismissing the complaint. They missed watching Jimmy Savile on Top of the Pops. The steel industry comes to an end. Another industry that's at risk. Oh, let's hear what Lord Frost had to say.
I had a good conversation with Elton John. I thought it was helpful to hear directly. I can't help noticing that he had his first hits before the UK even became a member of the European Union. So I think there's probably more at play here than pure rules applying.
As I said before, the way bands operated before 1973 were very different than they are today.
Within the then European community, well, talent is important, and that's why we support our talented creative industries.
How do you support them? By throwing them under a bus? You didn't listen to them during the negotiations. You're not listening to them now. Now, why did he not listen to them during the negotiations? I think it came down to time. Boris Johnson said, I want you to... Tom, thank you so much for that super chat. Contributing to the 2022 tour of the Max and the Gang, supported by the Metal Hamsters and UBI for UBI 40. Love it. Thanks so much for that. I'm looking in the other stream, so I don't know why these super chats are not. Please tell me. I hope I'm not missing any of them. Irman, thank you so much for that super chat. Per un bicchiere di Bardolino, thank you so much for that. Caro Max, fai molto caldo in Malta oggi. Very hot in Malta today. Very hot here in Italy, but we had a bit of a thunderstorm earlier, which cooled things down a little bit, so that was good. Unfortunately, I'm seeing two streams, and the super chats are going into the second stream for some reason, not the first stream. Anyway, I'll keep an eye. As soon as I hear a notification, I'll jump to the other stream. Who said UBI? So once again, Brexiteers don't give a crap about the music industry. They don't give a crap about the farming industry. They don't give a crap about anyone unless you're a Tory donor. Now, maybe if Elton John donated money to the Conservative Party, they may sort this out. So continuing with Brexit news, which stream should I be on? Wayne, you're on the right stream. There's another stream, but and some people are on that stream. I don't... Piskin, thank you so much for that super chat. Max, my old mucker, how's your back? How's my back? I don't know. My back is fine. I don't know what I did. Thanks very much for that super chat. Okay, this is going to be complicated because there's chat. I'm following two chats. I'll try and do my best here. I promise I will have it sorted out next time. Okay, there's a bit of a delay there. Yes. The other stream is called Brexit Sausage Saved, Britain's new healthcare minister. So if you're not on the Brexit Sausage Saved stream, you should jump over to that one because that's where 167 on the other stream. So we should have like 300 people, but unfortunately it's been split for some reason. But I will sort it out for next time. Apologies. But they can still hear me on the other stream. So combat staff shortages by relaxing Brexit immigration rules, says CBI. I'm in both streams. Okay, so it says here, the UK's biggest business lobby group has called on the government to relax post-Brexit immigration rules to help companies struggling with staff shortages to hire more workers from overseas. The Confederation of British Industry said the government needed to immediately update its shortage occupations list to include several areas where employers are finding it difficult to recruit staff, including butchers, bricklayers, and welders. So, of course, Piskin, thank you so much for that super chat. Am I in the right place? Yes, you are. You're in the right place. Thanks so much for that super chat as well, and thank you for the other one that you sent me. Let me just double check. What did you say in the other one? Yeah, the other one is old school. Okay. Yes, I think everyone's back over on the right stream. Apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm lost. Warning that it could be a perfect storm of staff shortages as COVID-19 restrictions are gradually removed. It said failure to take action would put the UK's economy recovery from the pandemic at risk. So I covered this on the channel where there's a massive shortage of drivers. Many people who have been working in this industry in the run-up to the end of the transition period decided to move back to their countries because the majority of truck drivers in the UK were foreign drivers, EU drivers. So they have decided to return for a number of reasons, because of the pandemic, because of the costs related to bringing goods into the country. Remember, there were no checks on goods coming into the country, into the UK, but there are checks on goods going out. So what would normally happen would be lorry drivers would come in with a load and then they would leave with a load. But if you're coming in with a load knowing that you can arrive on time, but when you're going out, there's going to be checks. For many businesses, they weren't able to guarantee customers the arrival times. And there were also problems, if the paperwork was not correct, it'd be held up at the port, and this costs money. Drivers have to be paid, drivers have to be fed, they have to be services provided to them. So this created a lot of problems at the beginning. So a lot of businesses decided we're not going to deal with the UK at all. We're not even going to send goods in. And that's what we're seeing from the first story that I covered, where there's a shortage of fruit and vegetables in supermarkets. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you're living in the UK, have you seen shortages in your local supermarket? Not just of fruit and vegetables, but other things as well. it seems to be hitting food in particular. Evening Verti, hope you're well. Anyway, but I was saying also that in the video that, so there's a shortage of drivers, so they have to be replaced. Replaced with whom? They have to be replaced with British drivers. But the problem is you need to train them up. It costs money, and not everyone wants to be a truck driver. So there's always going to be a shortage. In the same way with doctors and nurses. Now, what's adding to the problem is that it's not considered a priority for the government, for the Home Office. So the CBI, of course, is asking for truck drivers and others to be added to this shortage occupation list, which means that these are given a priority in regards to immigration. So, warning that the perfect storm of staff shortages as COVID-19 restrictions are gradually removed. It's said that the failure to take action would put the UK's economic recovery from the pandemic at risk. The country's foremost business lobby, which speaks on behalf of 190,000 firms of all sizes and sectors, said employers need to take greater responsibility to address labour shortages by investing in the skills of the domestic workforce and by taking a chance on job seekers who might otherwise be overlooked. Means that people who are looking for a job are more likely to find a job, but it seems that the shortage is in physical work. You can see here by butchers, welders, bricklayers and truck drivers. However, it said that the government urgently needed to look again at its post-Brexit immigration policy to prevent chronic skill shortages from undermining the UK's economic recovery from COVID-19. Yeah, because if you can't get... The problem is if you can't find the staff... It's not just about getting the staff. It's about getting trained staff. Because there's no point if you have a restaurant, for example, and you need to hire a chef. You need to find a good chef. You can't just hire anyone and expect to train them up. It takes years to train up a good chef. And unfortunately, the first number of years, the workers don't get paid very much. And there's a huge drop-off. So there's a risk that, you'll get people in, but they won't be skilled enough to do the job, and then they'll quit, or you'll end up having problems with them, and your business will suffer. And it's not good to have a huge turnover of employees in that type of industry. You want to have employees that you can rely on, and employees want to be well paid for their services. An extension of this, I'm afraid, is that if these chronic shortages build up, if it gets worse, there may be a policy within the government to impose employment upon people. What I mean by that is kicking people off universal credit if they don't take jobs, forcing people into jobs that maybe they don't want to do, and keeping them in those jobs under the threat of sanctions, of losing their benefits. Now, I don't think we're at that stage yet, but I think it's a possibility. Do you know you can give both streams their own like? That's cool. Let me just keep an eye on the other stream. Doesn't say how many people are on the other stream, so just keep an eye that they're... I don't know whether it's the two streams. Anyway, Erman, thank you so much for that second super chat. Hi everyone, this is my first live stream hopping. Next super chat will be in German in case there's a third on. Oh, very kind of you. Thank you so much, Erman. Apologies for before, but I did read out your super chat. I hope you heard that. So it's molto caldo in Malta. Very nice. I'd love to visit Malta. In Italian we call it Malta. In English, Malta. I think Malta. So it says here, pressure is mounting on hauliers, hospitality venues, and the food and drinks industry in particular, with companies scrambling to hire staff as pandemic restrictions are relaxed and demand for goods and services returns. Logistics organizations have warned that chilled food will struggle to reach some shops this summer because of lack of drivers and production workers. And then there's also another problem, is that many drivers are planning holidays because, you know, they've been working all year and they generally go in the quiet period, so during the summer, which is going to put more stress on the logistics network or logistics industry. The CBI said ministers need to act on advice from the government's Migration Advisory Committee published in September, which recommended that certain roles, including butchers, bricklayers and welders, be added to the UK's shortage occupation list. The list is an official record of skilled occupations where there are not enough resident workers to fill vacancies. On the government's post-Brexit points-based immigration system, the visa applicants in these roles get 20 points additional points towards the 70-point minimum required to work in the UK. The pressure on business to find staff comes after as many as 1.3 million non-UK workers are estimated to have left the UK since late 2019, as many return to their country of birth to see out the pandemic at home. And economists believe that the COVID travel controls, new Brexit immigration rules, continuing pandemic risks, and people reassessing their job priorities are contributing to the labour shortages. Now, how many of these 1.3 million will return? It's difficult to say. But I think we could say a sizable portion of them will not return. Unless there is a huge demand for certain, if the immigration rules change and there is a huge demand for their jobs, their skills, then I could see a return, an influx of people. But then that would upset the Brexiteers, because the Brexiteers don't want Polish plumbers or Hungarian builders or French chefs or German barmaids. They don't want any of these things. So if you reopen, then more of them will come back. But then the Brexiteers will be angry and they will punish Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson will say, well, it's better to keep the racists happy than to keep the economy running. Anyway, let me read some more of your chats. Evening Daily Blaze, great to see you on the stream. Scottish independence has gone quiet lately. That is interesting. Yes, it's just been over a month and a half. It's almost 2 months now since the election. I think it was the 6th of May. So the reason it's gone quiet is that the SNP has said that they will not be engaging in campaigning for independence for the first 100 days. So we're talking about another month probably before you start to hear something about independence. I think they will start campaigning for independence probably once the pandemic has been dealt with, because one of the arguments against the campaigning for independence from the unionist side is, look, there's a pandemic, we need to focus on the pandemic. So if you take that off the table, of course their next argument is, yeah, but you need to focus on recovery. Remember recovery. So, and recovery is open-ended. You know, you can say, look, the pandemic is over in a sense. When is the recovery over? Recoveries can last 30, 40, 50 years. So, but I think it'll be about after 100 days. That's when the SNP are planning to start talking about independence again. Okay, let's move on just to stay with this issue. With this issue, it says here, lorry driver shortage, UK government and retailers in emergency talks. So the government has decided to speak to the industry. The UK government has held emergency talks with retailers, logistics groups and wholesalers as a shortage of lorry drivers threatened to leave gaps on supermarket shelves. And I covered this in one of the videos. Officials from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, are understood to have discussed potential solutions, including relaxing restrictions on drivers' working hours and increasing capacity for heavy goods vehicle driving tests and training to help bring in new local drivers. So some of the restrictions that were part of when the UK was a member of the European Union. Now, of course, these were rules that I think in some cases, some people said they were too strict. I think they were there to maintain public safety, because driving, a 20 or 30 ton vehicle on narrow roads, you want to make sure that the driver is fully alert. So there is a risk that, extending the hours that drivers can drive will help businesses, but I don't know if it'll help the drivers. Some drivers, of course, are paid by the hour. So the more they can drive, the more they get paid. But I hope that it's not going to come at the expense of public safety. So it goes on to say, DEFRA is also considering putting drivers on the official shortage occupation list, as we saw before. That'll make it easier to bring in workers from overseas. Sources said the government department was planning to survey related businesses to try to build support for the potential regulatory changes. So this has to change. Otherwise, you're going to see shortages in supermarkets. You're going to see food rotting in warehouses because there aren't trucks available to deliver to supermarkets. Because remember, many of these products, like fresh fruit and vegetables, they can't sit in a warehouse for a week. I was reading an article, I think it was on Twitter, I shared it on Twitter, I don't remember, but they were talking about how, it was one of the videos I uploaded. You can't have a lorry come in once a week. In some cases, the lorries have to come in every day because there's a rotation of fruit and vegetables. And now, because of the shortage, the lorries are coming in once a week. And they said we can't operate at that low level. And the more pressure there's put on them when there are fewer lorries, that means that something's going to give. You end up having lorry drivers working round the clock. And you can't have that for public safety reasons. And of course, the welfare of the drivers. Okay, guys, I want to take a little break for a moment from Brexit. Before we do, I just want to share with you a funny video, as we always do halfway through the stream. Just a comedy moment, just to lighten the mood a bit, and then we'll get back to the serious stuff in a moment. Remember, you can hit me with a super chat, and I'll read out your comment. You can also support the channel by becoming a Patreon. You have access to Discord, lots of fun over there, and you can also just share videos off the channel on social media. Facebook is a great place to share videos. A lot of views come from Facebook for some reason. But you can share the videos on social media is a great way to support the channel as well. Okay, let's enjoy this short video.
Right, boys, before granting you entry into Australia, you must first answer these simple questions.
Okay. Yep.
What is the official language of the state of Australia?
Foul language.
Correct. What months are Australia's summer months?
January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
Correct. When Australians say they are watching the footy, what are they doing?
Drinking.
Yeah. What is Australia's most popular wine?
That they're constantly confused with New Zealanders.
Correct. Who are Australia's most well-known hard rock artists?
The Aboriginal people.
Correct. What endangered species can be found on Bondi Beach?
Sunburned Irish people.
Yeah. Which queen still represents Australia?
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
She does. What are the Australian soccer team more commonly known as?
Shite.
Yeah. Did you enjoy Mad Max Fury Road?
Yes.
That's a correct answer. Australia fundamentally disagrees with the international community on which important issue?
Vegemite.
Correct. Which recurring event wreaks havoc and devastation throughout Australia each and every year?
Australia Day.
Correct. What is Australia's biggest import?
Backpackers.
What is Australia's biggest export?
Backpackers who overstayed their visa.
Congratulations, boys, you passed the test.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you're still being deported.
What? No, why?
Yeah. What? We found a whole bunch of sausages in your bag.
Yeah, I think that was funny. Okay, I hope no one from Australia is offended. Era, thank you so much for that super chat. What about automated computer lorries? Actually, that's a real idea. It's I think Tesla are developing an electric lorry, electric truck that can travel up to 600 kilometers on a charge. It can carry, it can tow a huge weight up to 600 kilometers, I think. And they have a navigation system. They have an autopilot in it, which is an AI which can drive the truck on its own. Like if anyone is on the stream with a Tesla, you probably know that there's an autopilot. It's not completely autonomous, but it is getting close to that. And you could I think we're quite close, although we've heard this before. We're very close to getting automated, like robotic trucks or whatever to drive goods around the country. So that, you definitely be able to overcome that problem with those types of lorries. But at the moment, we're very far away from getting to that. I think we're at least 5 years away before we have trucks that can operate autonomously. So thanks for that super chat, Era. Let me see. Okay, so we've heard the old story. There's one rule for them and there's one rule for everyone else. And this is a perfect example of this, where if you're the senior executive in a company, you can leave quarantine if your company has more than 500 employees, I think it is. So I want to share this. It can opt out of quarantine if you're a senior executive. This is quite insulting.
We've just seen this pop up on the government website in the last few minutes that you may be able to temporarily leave quarantine for COVID in England if you are a senior executive in a business undertaking activities likely to be of significant economic benefit. And they define that as preserving 500 jobs in the UK. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I needed to go down the pub and meet with some associates because if I don't meet with these associates, then we're not going to be able to keep all these employees in the company. Yeah, it was an emergency. I had to do it. Look, this is once again the Tories reaching out to their donors and their friends and trying to do something for them. We'll give you contracts. We'll let you off quarantine if you want.
Sure how you would prove that. They say it's a special exemption and not going to be used as a loophole for everyone. But I think it's just going to, just like the incident with the UEFA officials being able to leave quarantine, I think it's just going to fuel this feeling that ordinary people are having to follow the rules and a special elite of people are having the rules bent for them, and it's going to increase, even if it's hardly anyone is going to be able to take advantage of it, it will increase pressure on the government to sort out a test.
Like, why do this? What is the benefit of this? People are going to get upset about it. It's not a big story, but it just demonstrates that there's one rule for the elites and there's one rule for everyone else. But we already knew that.
Alternative to self-isolation, especially when you're looking at people who've had 2 vaccinations. Look,
I think at this stage, most people in the UK have probably had their vaccinations, so it's not actually... Is it really necessary for people to quarantine at this stage? But the people quarantining would generally be people coming in from red list countries, no? Where people should not be coming in anyway. I'm a little bit too close to the microphone. I don't want to deafen people. Max, what about Ireland being the last country in Europe to open up from COVID? I didn't know about that. It seems that Ireland is going fast and slow. It seems 1 week it seems everything is going really well, and then the next week it's going pretty badly. I think I'm an advocate of opening up as late as possible. Because you need to protect your people, but by protecting your people, you're also protecting the economy. I understand there's a huge cost by remaining closed. But if you open up too quickly, it's going to become more expensive in the long term. So I would recommend, if Ireland has the possibility to stay closed for another while. But I think most industries have reopened. I don't know what industries are still closed in Ireland. Maybe is it gyms? Pubs are still closed, or pubs? Well, I think some pubs are operating outdoor only. I'm not sure. And then as we're in summer now, so most pubs will be open and operating outdoor business anyway. So, oh sure, it's great to have you on the stream. Sajid Javid is a boiled egg. Sajid Javid is a horrible Tory. He was getting paid £15,000 an hour or something from a bank. Was it Goldman Sachs or some bank like that? Now he's going to be the health secretary, and he's going to put business ahead of health for sure. Indoor dining is still banned in Ireland. Okay, sorry to hear that. Outdoor only. Here in Italy, it's open. You're allowed to eat inside and outside. Mask wearing has been removed from the list on Monday, I think it was, yesterday. So it's no longer necessary to wear a mask when you're outside. That's been something that we've had for over a year. So that's good. But you still need to wear a mask when you enter a building. So, although that's not really a problem for most people. Unless you're a COVID-idiot, then it's a problem. But we're moving out slowly. So as someone mentioned, All Shorts actually mentioned the egg.
Normal life stirs as crowds gather for Wimbledon with guests of honour in the special seats.
Today, they include leaders who have developed the anti-COVID vaccines.
As the applause rang out for Dame Sarah Gilbert and others who'd helped the COVID effort, the Prime Minister was confirming that the government will not be releasing the country from COVID rules at the earliest possible date next week, but was more confident about doing just that on the 19th.
Why does he do this? Why are there always videos of Boris Johnson, dressed up like a fool, dressed up like a doctor, dressed up as an engineer? Like, why? Sorry.
19th of July.
What I think we should do now is continue to take a cautious but irreversible approach.
Stop saying that word. Stop saying irreversible. Every time you say irreversible, you're putting yourself in a hole. Because if cases are rising, and cases are rising at the moment, I think yesterday it was 22,000. I don't know what it is today. But if cases are rising, there's a risk that you will have to reverse. Stop saying it's irreversible. This is political speak. He's not listening to the scientists. Boris the engineer.
And use the next 3.5 weeks or so to make sure that we get another 5 million vaccinations into people's arms.
The newly appointed...
He's trying to fix something he broke. The country. Action man, Prime Minister. If he looked like Fred West, people would miss Oh my god, this is terrible. I shouldn't be laughing at this, but if he looked like Fred West, people would be so tolerant. Well, you just look a bit like Fred West. Oh my god. I liked when Bojo was hanging from the cables. Yes. Have not followed on from EU COVID ranks. Sanji might be a boiled egg with Boris scrambled egg brains have linked onto the top of his head. Oh my god. Tomorrow finally getting the vaccine. Well done, Verti. Please stop breaking Max. Spare parts are hard to come by as it's an outdated model. Yes. Okay, sorry about that.
Health Secretary Sajid Javid echoed the Prime Minister's words. He insisted COVID controls, when lifted, would not come back. Some experts think their language is reckless.
No date we choose comes with zero risk for COVID. We know we cannot simply eliminate it. We have to learn to live with it.
Do you think another extension to lockdown could see the end of the Tories in power? It seems people have had enough of the lockdowns. I think it depends on... See, what they could do is they could have a mini lockdown. They could change the language. They could call it a circuit breaker. Or they could just introduce new restrictions and not call it a lockdown. So, yes, technically a lockdown would be a huge problem for the Conservatives. It could see the end of Boris Johnson. But Boris Johnson knows that. So I'm pretty sure that he would rename it to something else. No, we're not going to a lockdown. We're re-evaluating the restrictions. We're going to... And that's probably what he would do, is he would maintain the restrictions a bit further along, not ease them, change some of the restrictions, but they will not mention the word lockdown. The word lockdown is toxic, and it would be career-ending. But if he actually introduced a new lockdown, I still think... Now, a lot of people say that this would be the end of the Conservatives. I don't think so. Because Boris Johnson is made of Teflon. He has Teflon in his blood. So I don't see... Even if he came out and said, we're going to go into another lockdown, a lot of people would be angry. A lot of people would complain. But it wouldn't be the end of Boris Johnson. Because... For two reasons. Well, for one main reason is that the public complain, but they do nothing about it. Now, of course, the co-idiots would go out in March and whatever, but the vast majority of people will do nothing. They will grumble and get on with it. We've seen it with... Look what happened to the fishing community. I was convinced that when it came through that the fishing industry were thrown under a bus, when we saw that shellfish couldn't be sold into the EU because Great Britain was a third country. At that stage, I was expecting to see fishermen driving down to Westminster, protesting outside Westminster until something was done. And what did we see instead? We saw a few videos of a few fishermen complaining about what they voted for. We saw a few videos of fishermen saying, well, you know, my business may close, but, well, what can we do? That was the response. I couldn't believe it. Complete indifference. Maybe some of them had already planned to retire, and they were like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to retire a little bit earlier. Complete indifference. You wouldn't see the French do that.
We also know that people and businesses need certainty. So we want every step to be irreversible. And make no mistake, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the restrictions on our freedoms, they must come to an end.
The new Health Secretary has just said that the changes will be irreversible. Does that word make sense?
No, but it's never made sense. But, you know, after the November lockdown, the Prime Minister said never again. Children were always going back to school in January until they didn't a day after they went back. They weren't going to stop the June 21st day, and then they delayed it. So, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think it means that much. He can say what...
Sorry, I just want to jump into the chat for a moment. Reagan Elite says, still waiting for fishermen to dump their rotten fish outside Nigel Farage's house. If I came to one of these communities, I don't know if they've ever heard of me, but if I came there and I said, look, let's organise a protest outside Nigel Farage's house, how many of these fishermen would come along with me? Probably none.
What he likes, but the disease isn't listening.
Sajid Javid said he'd pored over the numbers in his first day in the job yesterday and was very confident of his words. Boris Johnson's former chief aide Dominic Cummings tweeted, top tip for Saj. There's only one thing irreversible with the trolley, a nickname he's coined for Boris Johnson because of what he sees as his out-of-control politics. No comment on the PM's private life. Everything else is reversible and usually reversed. How this image, which triggered Sajid Javid's return to government, ended up in public was still being debated. The CCTV camera that caught the image is no more.
I haven't.
It was removed. They removed the CCTV camera. Now, I'm not a fan of conspiracy theories, but isn't it weird how a camera... Now, was the camera there before? Was it used? Did somebody install it in order to catch Matt Hancock? There are two possibilities here. Matt Hancock knew there was a camera and didn't care, or Matt Hancock didn't know there was a camera because the camera was installed without his knowledge. Because, you know, if you go to a place, like, for example, if you're doing these sort of shenanigans, I'm not an expert on this, okay? But, you know, if you're doing something a bit dirty and you look around and you go, okay, there are no cameras here, you continue to do it there because you're automatically in your mind, you believe there's no cameras around. Why remove the cameras? Doing a great job. I think probably what happened was somebody knew something was going on. They installed a camera, but then the problem with this argument is then why would you put the camera that people can see? It would have to be a secret camera. It would have to be one hidden, you know, behind a light fixture or something like that. So it sounds weird that, you know, the conspiracy theory of somebody putting in a camera to catch Matt Hancock. I'm going off I believe Matt Hancock didn't care. Or he didn't really think anything would come of it. Really at this stage, I don't know. Just the idea of the camera put in order to catch Matt Hancock. Why would you put a camera that looks like a camera? Unless somebody told Matt Hancock, oh, there's a camera there. Is it working? No, it's not working. But it's weird that it was taken away.
Disabled the camera that you're talking about, but it has been disabled by the department. I think for security it's just common sense. I don't think as a general rule there should be cameras in the Secretary of State's office. I've never known that in the other 5 departments that I've run, and I don't...
Why? For what reason would there not be cameras?
Really sure why there was one here.
Lovely.
Many Tory backbenchers want to know COVID restrictions are being dismantled, never to be put back together again. They think they have someone closer to their views now in office, but worry they haven't seen the end of controls, even if they are lifted in 3 weeks' time. It's interesting, when Matt Hancock was Health Secretary, not so long ago in the House of Commons, you heard him being asked about the use of this word irreversible, and he said the goal is irreversible changes, caveating the whole thing carefully. Sajid Javid wasn't doing that today, and Tory lockdown critics were pleased by that, but they did notice when they pressed him on the issue of officials, they said, who were in the Department of Health, working even now on rules that would come back into play this winter. Would he rule that out? That those rules would come back into play this winter. And Sajid Javid sort of slightly sidestepped that one, and those COVID lockdown critics on the Tory benches are going to keep their eye on him. We're still having repercussions from Matt Hancock's resignation. I paused slightly before I used that word because we thought it was a resignation. Downing Street said he could stay in his job. The matter was closed on Friday, and then he appeared to resign on Saturday. It was certainly the implication of the letters that were exchanged between Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson. Lo and behold, today Boris Johnson seemed to be trying to take credit in interviews he gave.
Because Boris Johnson needs to take credit. Boris Johnson needs to show that he's in control. Because it gave the impression that Boris Johnson was not in control. Conservator, thank you so much for that super chat. Matt Hancock resigned because his fans only project failed. His OnlyFans project failed. That's horrible. Oh my god. Sir Desmond Swayne. I hate Sir Desmond Swayne. James Bond lameness intensifies. Security services is the dirty word. It's a dirty word. Nobody expects acquisition. Oh my god. Okay, let's move on. Let me see. No, I'll leave Matt Hancock for a bit. Somewhat related to Matt Hancock, of course, is this story. It says here, Labour demand end to crony government directors paid 14 times a nurse's wage. So Labour are demanding the end to crony government board members, as party analysts suggest claims they earn up to 14 times more than nurses. Matt Hancock directly appointed university friend Gina Condolangelo, who later became his lover, as a £15,000 a year non-executive director on the board of the Department of Health. Now it's £15,000 a year, but she worked like 2 days or something like that. Ms. Condolangelo has now left the role after her kiss with Mr. Hancock was caught on camera, and the camera was later removed. But Labour have claimed maybe they removed it because there were other people doing stuff as well. But Labour have claimed the scandal could be the tip of the iceberg and raise questions about the 84 NEDs employed across government. The job advertised shows NEDs, non-executive directors, are expected to pay a minimum of expected to work a minimum of 15 to 20 days per year, yet get paid £15,000 to £20,000 for a lead NED. Labour suggested this could be as much as £178 an hour, 14 times more than the nurse's starting salary of £12.77. And then we see the man himself. Downing Street yesterday suggests Mr. Hancock was entitled to make direct appointments, and the appointment of Miss Condolangelo followed the correct procedure. Yes. But of course, this is, clear. This is typical of what goes on. Ordinary people working within the industry get paid minimum wage, and then friends, relatives are hired to do pointless jobs and paid huge amounts of money. The Labour Party pointed out others who held NED roles have political links to ministers. Simon Finn, a Conservative peer, was a non-executive board member of the Cabinet Office from February 28th, donating her salary to charity. Simone Finn. Former Labour MP Gisela Stewart, who chaired Vote Leave and campaigned alongside new Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove, also sits on the Cabinet Office board. Theresa May's former Chief of Staff, Nick Timothy, is a non-executive director of the Department for Education, while former UKIP and Tory MP Douglas Cardwell is on the board of the Department for International Trade. And they, of course, receive salaries for this. A Cabinet Office spokesperson said Simone Finn and Gisela Stewart were both appointed following the chair and open competition as set out by the Code of Governance, with the roles being publicly advertised. So these people have been... What is their role? Is it necessary for them to be there? But it seems really strange that these people, politicians, won the tendering process. We all know what's going on here. It's corruption. Let me see. For the Boris cam. No, I don't want to see the Boris cam. Please tell me there's no Boris cam. How is he live streaming 2 videos at once? That's a long story. But it won't happen again, I promise. I hope I'm not breaking any YouTube rules here. 2 live streams at once is a new YouTube technology, never tested before. Yeah, I'm experimenting for YouTube. Anyway, let's move on. This is a story that is extremely concerning for me because Chris Whitty... So this is a clip. I'm going to show you more of the video in a moment. But Chris Whitty is a public servant. Chris Whitty is not a politician. And what's been extremely worrying for me over the last number of months and since last year is how individuals on Twitter, but more concerning is people, outlets like Talk Radio, GB News, Even LBC and others have been engaging in a type of rhetoric against Chris Whitty and the other and his colleague, suggesting that they are directing the Prime Minister, telling the Prime Minister what to do, that they're puppet masters, and Boris Johnson is dancing to their tune. This is extremely dangerous rhetoric, and now we're seeing the consequence of that. So it says here, Professor Chris Whitty grabbed by thugs in London Park as video investigated by police. Police are investigating an incident in which thugs grabbed Professor Chris Whitty in a London park and jeered after video of the episode circulated online. A clip of the Chief Medical Officer for England being put in a headlock was posted on Twitter on Monday night and was quickly condemned. At least 2 young men are seen grabbing the scientist as they ask him to stop for a photo in the park near Westminster. Another voice can be heard saying, "Leave the gentleman alone." Professor Whitty was verbally abused in a London street in a similar video in February. Excuse me. The Metropolitan Police said that they're aware of the footage and it's investigating the circumstances. Vaccine Minister Nazim Zawari tweeted, "This is disgusting and that these thugs must be found and charged. Zero tolerance for harassing a public servant." And a Met's police spokesperson said they were aware of the video being shared online showing an incident in St. James Park. Officers spoke to at least all those involved at the time and their details were taken. We're in contact with the victim and the circumstances continue to be investigated. But this is a consequence of the type of rhetoric we've heard on... So I want to show you the video because this doesn't show it all. Just a short clip. Actually, yeah, this is covered by Channel 4. It's just a bit more information on this.
Now, the Prime Minister has condemned what he called the despicable harassment of England's Chief Medical Officer after a video was posted on social media appearing to show Professor Chris Whitty being accosted in a London park. The Metropolitan Police are investigating, while some MPs say leading scientific advisors should get extra police protection. Police have spoken to the 2 men who followed and grabbed Mr. Whitty in a central London park over the weekend. A video emerged on social media last night, the 3rd time he's been filmed being harassed in the street. Earlier this month in Oxford, he was accosted by an anti-vax campaigner.
So why are you lying to the public? Why is everything...
A repeat of a similar incident in London in February, which Mr. Whitty batted off at a press conference.
The odd young lad showing off occasionally happens.
Over the weekend, protesters gathered outside what they thought was his home, shouting abuse. A doctor and civil servant, he unexpectedly became a household name when COVID hit, taking part in the daily press conferences at Number 10.
I feel really sorry for him because he was doing his job. Boris Johnson offloaded, as I said before in previous videos and live streams, Boris Johnson offloaded responsibility onto him and the other scientist. Boris Johnson had the good news and they had the bad news, which I think was wrong at the time, and in a sense fed into this public paranoia and scaremongering and hysteria. Public hysteria, that's what. And then you have the likes of talk radio and now GB News as well feeding into this, suggesting that he's in charge. He's the one pulling the strings. That the scientists are forcing Boris Johnson's hand. The scientists are, we should stop listening to scientists. We need to listen more to politicians like Sir Desmond Swayne or something like that. Anyone else notice the police van not 20 yards away? No, I didn't see that. This guy is being attacked and blamed for what? For the lockdowns, for the restrictions. Because the public have been fed a long, consistent stream of lies. And you even have people like, well, not directly, but you have the likes of the Reform Party. You have that idiot, what's his name, who ran for mayor of London and failed. That lunatic, I don't remember his name. Lawrence Fox, is it? People like him who are saying that, Chris Whitty is commanding Boris Johnson. He's the one in charge. He's running the country. He's unelected. Why should we be listening to this guy? He's a civil servant. He was asked to do his job, and he did his job. Boris Johnson offloaded responsibility onto him, which I think was wrong. But he took it, and he did it, and he provided advice to the government. The government didn't follow the advice, but he still got blamed for whatever the consequences were. I think he should have resigned earlier on because it was pointless working with Boris Johnson. But resign because Boris Johnson is incompetent and Boris Johnson is not actually was not actually interested in dealing with the pandemic earlier on. I can imagine the sort of discussions they had.
As an official rather than a politician, he doesn't get the same security offered to ministers, though there are calls today for that to be revised. The Prime Minister saying what he called this despicable harassment would not be tolerated. Well, I'm joined now by Professor Devi Sridhar, one of the public health experts who's had a prominent public profile since the start of the pandemic and an advisor to the Scottish government. When you look at those pictures of Chris Whitty and the demonstrations, does it chime with your experience?
Well, I think what's clear is that there is a lot of anger and resentment and frustration right now across the world. This is not just in Britain. If you look across the world, from Belgium to the United States to Australia, about what people see as their loss of freedoms, the loss that they've experienced of their livelihoods, and they are looking for targets. And the easiest targets are people that they see on TV or who they see on podiums, and it's scientists. And so they put that blame there instead of realizing that we're the people, especially the people working on vaccines, who are trying.
And these are the people who are doing the work. The politicians are not doing the work. Pilskin, thank you so much for that super chat. Very worrying mob behavior. It is extremely concerning because these people are generally conspiracy theorists, and they have been led to believe all sorts of things, and they need an enemy. And it's very easy for them to point the finger at a scientist, for example, and say, this is our enemy.
Trying to find solutions so we can all get back to mixing and having all of that in life that makes it rich and full.
But I suppose they see you as the advocates for lockdown and the people who have persuaded politicians to curtail freedoms, and there's some truth to that. Is this just limited to one or two people, or, I mean, I'm sure you all talk, are you all sort of finding this kind of reaction?
Yeah, it's a global phenomenon. You have to only listen to Dr. Tony Fauci in the States and the abuse that he's gotten from Trump supporters. You see how face masks have been politicized in the States. So if you're Republican, you don't wear one. And if you're Democrat, you do wear one. And so I think, and you're seeing it now in Australia as they have to reimpose restrictions given their flare-ups. And so I think, the message to people is that nobody wanted lockdowns, and lockdowns are incredibly harsh. But the alternative is the scenes that we've seen out of Brazil, out of India, out of Nepal, across South America, which is mass death and people getting very ill and not dying because they can't get oxygen, dying because they can't get into a hospital until someone dies and frees a bed so they can get in and actually get care. And so I think it's hard because people see lockdowns, but the alternative would be so much worse. And this virus is dangerous. You can be in your 30s. You won't die of it if you get oxygen and you get fluids, but you might if there's no care. So I think that's kind of, we have to explain to people that in the end, we were trying to buy time for some kind of solution. And now that solution has arrived in vaccines and testing. So hopefully we'll never have to do lockdown restrictions again. Of course, I will never say never, but I think the view is that there has to be a better way. And that's what we're looking to work towards. So,
I mean, of course, it's not a uniform reaction. Yesterday, we saw the reaction at the Wimbledon crowd towards Sarah Gilbert and the Oxford vaccination team, which was adulation, really. I mean, but what do you think this has done to sort of Britain's attitude towards experts?
Well, actually, I think...
Don't get me started on experts. We heard from the likes of Michael Gove, who said... Was it Michael Gove? I'm pretty sure it was Michael Gove who said, people are tired of experts. People are tired of hearing from experts. We want to believe in something. The right wing generally are the ones who believe in things, while the rest of us generally look at the evidence. You can see it with Trump in the United States. The right wing within the United States believe in in Trump. They believe that he was sent by God. They believe that it's not necessary. They believe that injecting, what was it, bleach or whatever, or drinking it, or no, injecting it into your lungs, whatever was Donald Trump had said. They believe that these things work. There's this thing of believing things without evidence. And when people like, Gove or Boris Johnson or Jacob Rees-Mogg, Nigel Farage in particular, when it came to Brexit, it was, you have to believe in Brexit. If you believe enough, goods will cross borders. One of the criticisms Brexiteers had for Remainers was that they didn't believe in Brexit. They didn't believe in Britain. If they had believed more, Brexit would have been a success. It was Remainers holding it back. That's one of the arguments that they've made. They're using it a lot less now, but at the beginning, when things were not going so smoothly, they were saying, well, because people didn't believe in Britain enough. Calvin, thank you so much for that super chat. Keep up the good work, Max. Thank you very much for that. Very kind of you.
There's a real divide. I mean, we tend to pick out these examples of, what Chris Whitty has experienced, and he handles himself with such grace, and there's so much respect for how he held his head high and has actually shown, a lot of, real respect for being in the role he has, and he's having to do an impossible job. But at least in my life, everyone I meet daily is really lovely and nice. I've never had anyone be rude to me in that way. And so I think hopefully this is the exception, and it's just, people behaving badly in small groups. And we should focus on the vast majority of people who I think are now looking forward to restrictions lifting, happy to have their vaccines, and happy to hopefully made it through without losing someone to COVID or being ill from long COVID.
Can I just finally ask you about schools, which we reported earlier on? I mean, what do you think is the answer to this question of whole bubbles being sent home, hundreds of thousands of kids missing out on school because of the current rules?
It's completely tragic, and we have to get it right. So in Scotland, schools have closed. We're looking at reopening end of August, and we cannot have a repeat of the disruption we've seen. So I think we have two ways to go. For secondary schools, we need to vaccinate. We've already seen this happening in the States. Look at the figures in the States. 4 million kids infected with COVID, 300 deaths of children to COVID. 7 million children have been vaccinated, and there's not been one death to a child to the vaccine. There have been side effects, but they've been treated. So I think vaccination is the way to go for secondary schools to get a normal return where kids can mix and have a normal educational experience. Primary schools, we still don't have a vaccine, so we're going to have to look at other measures like repeat testing, good advice to parents.
I thought we had a vaccine for younger children. I had assumed that the vaccines we have can be administered to younger children.
And having kids stay off if they are
Ian Dale type behavior, exactly.
Symptomatic, but I think the whole idea of sending bubbles home is just, we need to move away from that, especially in the younger age groups. It's just too disruptive.
No, I agree. It's like the lockdowns and these types of restrictions were necessary at the beginning because we didn't have any tools, we didn't have any weapons to fight it. Now we have the weapons necessary. We have the vaccine, and we need to roll it out as much as possible. Guys, I want to cover this story as well. Look, we're talking at the beginning of the stream how businesses are struggling to find staff, and one of the reasons they are struggling to find staff is because of new restrictions brought in by the Home Office post-Brexit. Well, here is another idea from the Home Office. It says here, Home Office proposals due to sending asylum seeker. Sorry, proposals. Okay, Home Office proposals due on sending asylum seekers abroad. Sorry, I'm misreading these things tonight. Legislation expected next week that could open a way for moving asylum seekers offshore while claims pending. So it says the Home Secretary Priti Patel will publish proposed legislation next week that will open the door for sending asylum seekers overseas as they await the outcome of their application for protection in the UK. So what will happen is people will arrive in the UK. they would be automatically transferred to some place on the other side of the earth, and they'll wait there in an asylum center, and then they will eventually be told, yes, you can stay, or no, you can't. And then when you're said, no, you can't, you'll be sent home. Now, how long will these people have to stay in these asylum centers? Ministers published the new plan for immigration. This is like what the Australians have been doing, which have been criticized by Amnesty International and the United Nations. As far as I know, Amnesty International certainly has complained about this, criticized it. Ministers published the new plan for immigration in March, which included proposals to amend sections 77 and 78 of the Nationality, Immigration and Asylum Act 2002 so that it would be possible to move asylum seekers from the UK where their asylum claim is on a claim or on an appeal is pending. Home Office sources confirmed that the legislation is expected to be published next week, but sought to play down reports that the government was in talks with Denmark over sharing a centre in Africa. I didn't know Denmark had a centre in Africa. We're not opening talks with Denmark over the sharing of a centre, a source told The Guardian. Governments talk to other governments who are pursuing similar policy aims to see how they're getting on. It's not a regular dialogue. It was a slightly long telephone call with the Danish government to see what they're doing. We both got a similar issue and believe a similar policy solution is one of the answers, but it's a bit premature. The Danish Parliament voted on the 3rd of June in favour of the proposal to process asylum seekers outside Europe, potentially the first step in setting up a refugee screening centre in a third country, most likely in Africa. I'm completely against this. People are coming into the country because they need help, and our first reaction is to send them away, in a sense. We don't want you in the country. You're probably a threat. They should be processed in the country. We're not talking massive numbers of people here. No deals with third countries have yet been signed, however, and no negotiations are underway, although the Danish government has agreed a memorandum of understanding with Rwanda, setting a framework for future talks, and is reportedly in talks with Tunisia, Ethiopia and Egypt. The plan, backed by 70 MPs with 24 voting against, drew strong criticism from human rights groups, the UN and the European Commission, which said that it would undermine international cooperation and lack guarantees on human rights protections. The suggestion that the UK is seeking to emulate Denmark's offshoring policy is the latest in a long line of reports on asylum proposals the Home Office is said to be considering. Like, one of the proposals was to put wave machines in the channel to stop these boats from coming. Another was to use the Royal Navy to push boats back. We're not talking huge numbers of people here. We're talking about maybe 5,000 or 6,000 per year, or maybe even 10,000 per year. If you process them faster, then you're able to deport people quicker who have no right to be in the country, who have an illegitimate claim. But what happens is they don't have the staff, they don't have the resources to process these people, and they're left in a limbo, and they're left in, to live in housing estates or in asylum centers that are run down, that don't have that they themselves don't have the resources, the sufficient resources to manage them. And then the local community complain about it, and then the local community don't want the asylum center in their area, and the problem just gets moved on to someone else, and then there isn't an appetite in government to do it correctly. The suggestion that the UK is seeking to... I read that. Assertion Ireland discusses disused ferries and abandoned oil rigs have all been noted in leaked reports as potential destinations for people seek. This idea of just as far away as possible. Rosella Bagolucci-Lar, the UN Refugee Agency's representative to the UK, said that the agency has no information on reports of a collaboration between Denmark and the UK, but added that she is extremely concerned and urged the UK to refrain from externalizing its asylum obligations. These cannot be outsourced or transferred without effective safeguards in place, both in law and practice, she said. As we have seen in several contexts, externalization often results in the forced transfer of people to other countries with inadequate protection safeguards and resources, and therefore risks a breach of international refugee and human rights obligations. And we've seen it in Australia, for example. Could we move Priti Patel offshore? Yes. We've seen it, for example, in Australia, where people have been forced into asylum holding centres, and they've been there for months and years. They don't know if they're going to be eventually allowed in, or they're going to be forced to return. Many people have gone through hell in those places. There's been abuse of minors and women in these centres by both the people who are staying in the centres themselves and by the staff, because they don't have the resources available, they don't have the training, and politicians want to keep this problem at arm's length. Look, they can tell their voters, see, there are no asylum seekers in the area. We've shipped them off to somewhere else. It's really angering, and it's a perfect example of the Tory mentality. Not in my backyard, and I'm going to make sure it's not in your backyard so that you vote for me. Let me read some of your comments. I went to a demo at Yarriswood. I was traumatized. Heartbreaking hellhole. I heard Somalia was a good place for this. Yes. Well, don't. I hope Priti Patel is not listening. Workhouses. That would be the Jacob Rees-Mogg version. Jacob Rees-Mogg would love to bring back workhouses. Work for your supper, people. Peasants. Patel for Azkaban. %20 of the worst COVID-19 patients are fully vaccinated. Well, I didn't know about that. How much damage can they do on an oil rig? They're Tories. They'd probably sink it with fire. Oh well, put the Tories on an oil rig. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream for tonight. Let me read more of your... Max is on Twitch. Let the hot tub streams begin. Isn't Twitch for games? I need to play some games on Twitch. How much damage? Yeah, sorry. 20% of the worst COVID-19 patients are in at least one university hospital is fully vaccinated, and the disease has infected pet dogs and cats. Expect new variants, viral variants. Oh no. My best friend's brother is an anaesthetist in charge of the ward. I thought the vaccine was our way out of this. It seems maybe not. Labour Party who brought in workhouses in the 1920s. Was the Labour Party? No, that brought in the work camps. No, I'm not sure what you mean by the Labour Party, because workhouses have been around since the 1800s, since the Industrial Revolution. Boris the engineer on an oil rig is a disaster waiting to happen. The Tudors had the first workhouses. Ah, okay. I thought it was I thought it was the 1800s, probably before that. I think maybe workhouses have existed in all sorts of forms. Ermin, thank you so much for coming on the stream tonight. Good night. Have a great evening. So guys, I think we'll end the stream here for tonight. I want to say thanks to everyone who came on the stream tonight. Thanks for both coming on both streams tonight. Not sure what happened with the other one. I'll try and sort it out for next time. It's a multi-stream, so I will make sure it's a mono stream for tomorrow, for Friday, sorry. So everyone, thanks for coming on. Thanks so much for all of those super chats. Greatly appreciated. Thanks to the moderators who've done a fantastic job tonight, keeping the trolls at bay. As always, remember, if you want to join with me after the stream on Discord, anyone who's on Patreon can access Discord, and we have our post-stream chat. We'll talk about the stream and talk about other things, and you can raise some topics. But before we finish, we have our one for the road.
Speak now. Say it.
I've decided to give up my place in government and dedicate my future to working out my parkour technique. I like jumping over concrete. I like fences. I like to run up walls and jump on women at work. Obviously, that was a bad mistake. I want to say sorry to the country.
What about your family, you dick?
Aye, sorry to everybody, all my friends and family and that. I mean, that's me lost my job. So who knew there was a camera in there the whole time? But turns out there was. So I'm dead sorry to everybody that didn't get to attend funerals and weddings and birthdays while I was getting snuggly buggly with a lady at my work. So I see you all round the skate park. Matt Hancock here, parkour expert. Sorry everybody, just sorry in that. I'm off. Frank, get the door.
This is not realistic because Matt Hancock would not apologize. And what's this snuggly buggly? He was getting snuggly buggly with a woman. Okay, that's a new term. I'm going to have to use that from time to time. So everyone have a snuggly buggly evening. And I see you all on Friday for same bat time, same bat channel, 9:30 British summertime. Have a great week, and I'll see you all soon. Take care, and as Boris Johnson always says, stay alert. Good night, guys. See you soon. Take care.